My name's Neil, I'm one of the ministers here. I was going through the sermon this morning, as I always do, and I found it quite long-winded and boring. So do you mind if I go off-piste? Would that be all right? Because I think if I was bored by it, then you're going to be really bored by it, aren't you? So this will be a bit clunkier, but we'll go with it. Is that okay? So Marge, if there's anything on the PowerPoint that works, just bung it up, okay? You're going to have to stay awake this morning, I'm sorry. I was just talking in the coffee time, in the welcome time there, and I spoke to a couple of couples, and one of them said, "Oh, my husband proposed to me in Paris." Oh, that's good, isn't it? And I said to the other one, "Oh, where did you propose to your wife?" And she went, "Shibben." And he went, "Yeah, but it's lovely." She went, "In the car park." He said, "But the stars were out." She went, "It was cloudy." I thought, this guy's trying to build with materials that aren't working, but they're both married, thank goodness. Paul talks to us about building wisely in 1 Corinthians. In chapter 3, starting at verse 10, he says this: "By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as an expert builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should be careful how he builds, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Christ Jesus." When Paul there says, "By the grace God has given me," it's not just a fluffy feeling. Grace there is the empowering presence of God in our lives that helps us to do good things. So Paul, right from the beginning here, in talking about building wisely, is saying, don't think it's about me and about how gifted or eloquent I am. It's about the power of God dwelling in me to help me do good things. Do you find, if you've been a Christian for any length of time, that if you try and do it in your own steam, you just become quite grumpy? Because it's hard forgiving people, isn't it? It's hard turning the other cheek. It's difficult to love those who don't love us back. I was laying in bed this morning before I got up and I just said, "Jesus, help. Just help me today. Help me to live like you." Because Paul says in this passage that Jesus is our foundation, the one that is already laid. And if you read Paul's books, 1 and 2 Corinthians, he makes it really clear that the central point of the foundation that is Jesus is his death on the cross. We don't see in that foundation power, armed forces. We see a broken, beaten, seemingly defeated carpenter who through that moment transforms the world. Jesus is absolutely countercultural. And we should be the same. Not coming from our strength and our power and our influence, but through the brokenness that was within each one of us, saying, "Jesus, you're my foundation. Work through me as I am. I don't want to have to wait until I've got it all together and then you work through me." I think there's far too much shame in the church. Shame that we don't make the grade. Feeling ashamed that our children don't follow Jesus, or not necessarily in the way that we hoped they would. Shame. Jesus, the foundation, didn't come in our place so that we would live lives drenched in shame. He came to give us life. But I'm a bit like you. And I find shame can hang round my shoulders, spiritually speaking, like a heavy, damp, mildewy cloak that I don't just need to put in the wash and clean, but I need to bung it in the fire and get it burned up and away. There's too much shame. Jesus didn't die to give us shame. Jesus died to give us new life. So we come with our brokenness and our batteredness to Jesus. And we say, "Take me as I am. And please use me by the grace, the power that is yours, so that I build a life that is worth living." He goes on and says in verse 12, "If any person builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay or straw, his work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what he has built survives, they will receive their reward. If it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as one escaping through the flames. Paul says, build with gold, silver, precious stones. I imagine he was thinking of the temples, the Temple of Solomon that he would have heard of, Herod's temple in Jerusalem, and some of the wonderful temples in Athens and in Corinth. And he's saying, build with those things because they last. They may look a bit ropey now, 2,000 years later, but we can still see what they're basically like, can't we? He says, don't build with straw and hay and wood. That's what they built their houses out of, with mud, to make sure they stood up. They get blown down like that. The fire will rip right through them. I remember once being down at the football pitches playing for Tonbridge Baptist Church. My main position in the team was substitute. Always ready to come on, rarely used. And I was stood on the sideline between the manager and a player that was injured, and we all lived on Longmead Way. And I said to Julian Holdsworth, the manager, I said, look at that smoke coming up on our road. That looks like it's your house. He went, no, it's too far to the right to be my house. I said to Simon Piper, well, it must be your house then, because your house is to the right. He went, no, it's too far to the right to be mine. It's further in to the left. I went, well, my house is right in the middle of your houses. And I went home thinking, that's a funny thing, isn't it? 2 fire engines out the back of our houses. Our next door neighbour was working on a car in his back garden, and he used a lit flame and he caught the petrol tube and the car went up. My dad said a few choice words to our neighbour and then got the washing line and threw it out into the road. And the fireman said to my dad afterwards, that was so brave of you to throw the washing out, because it would have gone, the fire, from the car to the washing line, and then it would have taken up all 6 houses. Why did you do it? And he said, well, Kath had just put it out to dry and I didn't want it to get smoky, so I just lobbed it in the road. The fear of a wife that washes. The whole lot would have gone up. Have you ever experienced a fire in your life? It can be devastating. All that stuff you've treasured, frames on the shelf, books, all of the ones by that author that you've collected over the years from second-hand bookshops because you're a bit tight, pottery, clothing, that new rug that you bought just last year, and it's all gone. Paul says when we get to the end of our lives, what we've built with will be tested as if by fire. And fire in the New Testament is an image of cleansing and purifying and consuming. And Paul says what we've built will be tested, so build wisely. If you build with gold and silver and jewels, it will last on that day of judgment. If you build with rubbish materials, it will be consumed. When you hear Day of Judgment, what do you think? Do you think Day of Judgment? And God's there like a judge in one of those, what are those hair pieces called that they wear? A wig, thank you. It's not a difficult word really, is it? It's not like I'm grasping for something really technical. Do you see God there in a wig with a scowl and one of those gavels ready to bang it down? Or do you see it as the Greek word actually is? Because the Greek word for judge is more of a tennis umpire, sitting there enjoying the game, consumed in it, but making sure that the right call is made, so that when the ball hits the line and there's a puff of that powder, that chalk, the judge, the umpire says, in! And the crowd roar because it's a fantastic rally. That's a different image of judge, isn't it? To the one that I've often been taught over the years and read about in books. God, this judge who's just permanently angry with us and can't wait to get us. Or a judge and umpire who says, I want you to enjoy the game, and don't worry, I'll make the tough calls and I'll call them right. Maybe we need to unpack some of the views we have of God and think about them. Because God is love, 1 John 4 says. It's not just an attribute of God, part of his character. God is love. If you cut God through like a stick of rock, it's love, 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 love. God is just, absolutely, but it's loving justice. God is merciful, it's loving. God gets angry sometimes, it's loving anger. Look at the world around us. Shouldn't God get angry at times? We do. God judges. And Paul says the rubbish materials will be burned up and consumed. And some of us will get into eternity by the skin of our teeth. Again, how do you read that passage? Do you read it that God's like, oh, I'm going to get rid of all the bad stuff. I kind of hope that you don't get in. Oh, but you've just got in by the skin of your teeth. Oh, that's so annoying. Oh, go on then, because of what Jesus did for you, I guess I'll have to let you in. Or do we read it that God says to us, I don't want you walking around eternity with all of these cruddy materials still on and in you. I don't want you in eternity laboured down by wood and straw and hay. So I'm going to do the loving thing, and on the day of judgment, I'm going to get rid of all of that. So that you, even if it's by the skin of your teeth, you'll get into heaven, and all that will be left is the gold, the silver, and the jewels. So you won't feel any guilt. You won't feel any, oh, just hide from God for a bit because I've still got that wood and that hay and that straw on my back and I don't want God to see it. God says, I get rid of it all. I burn it up as fire because I love you. Don't put your hand up. Anyone here ever build with straw, hay or wood? Send that aggressive email. Make that bitchy comment about someone behind their back. Have that lustful thought that you know you shouldn't be having. I'm not keeping my hand up for all of those, by the way. Or maybe I am. This week, have we built with straw, wood, hay? The good news is that at the end of time, it will be burnt up and dealt away with. And the good news is that we're forgiven for it now because of our foundation, Jesus Christ. He on the cross died and dealt with every single bit of wood, straw and hay that we've ever done, are doing and will do. It's all forgiven. And we stand free, not needing to stand saturated in shame before Jesus because of what he's done for us. These flowers over here are from the funeral we had here on Friday. It was an absolutely wonderful funeral. We heard of a man's life and of all the good things he'd done. He built with wood and straw. Of course he did. He's like all of us. But he did so many things with gold and silver and jewels. And I went out of that funeral service just walking a little bit lighter. Just thinking, I'd like to live my life like him. And build with gold, silver, precious stones.